I had the pleasure of sitting down with Peter Dunsby and Sean Overmeyer, the managers over at the Kamma Remote Observatory in South Africa. In the interview, we talk about everything from how KKRO started to what their future plans are and everything in between, from gear, how you send your gear, how you lease gear, what everything costs. But of course, this interview isn't everything. So if there's things that we missed answering, please ask in the comments below and I will pass your questions along. And there's also a chance that Sean or Peter will monitor and answer you directly. I did my best to edit this interview in a way that's organized and also somewhat engaging, but for anyone interested in the full uncut interview with no cuts at all, no mixing and matching, I will post that for YouTube members as well as for patrons on Patreon, so be on the lookout for that. I may also post this as a podcast if there's any interest in the future. Huge thanks to Peter and Sean for taking the time to do this. I will post links to the KKRO website below, so be sure to check that out, as well as how to get in contact with Peter and Sean. So, without further ado, let's get to the interview. Welcome Sean and Peter, who are managing KKRO, the Kamma Remote Observatory, where we have a couple of telescopes running there. So I think we'll use this time for you to talk about the observatory as much as you want. Although the idea of remote observatories aren't new, it's still new to many people because they don't really know that you can have a telescope that's thousands of kilometers away from home and get amazing images, which I've been enjoying for the last 4 months or so. So why don't we start with introductions? Let's start with you, Peter, and then we'll go to Sean.
Hi, I'm Peter. I co-manage KKRO, but that's in my spare time. So most of my sort of work time is spent at the University of Cape Town. I'm a professional cosmologist, so that's someone who basically builds models of the universe. So that's my day job, and then my sort of hobby, fun time is playing around with KKRO and trying to make it work.
Yeah, my name is Sean Overmeyer, and together with Peter, I also co-manage KKRO. And I'm retired now, a few weeks retired, so I am quite briskly busy with moving back to my home city, which is Cape Town. I'm currently 1,000 miles away from KKRO, literally, and yeah, hopefully I'll get there soon. And so I think within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I should be back at KKRO again.
Awesome. So going back in time to like how the idea of KKRO started, what made you want to start your own remote observatory, and what made you pick this specific spot?
Yeah, so back over the COVID period, so this 2019, 2020, I built a backyard roll-off roof, um, mainly really just to make it easier for me to, do sort of nightly imaging with my scopes on my deck. But that got me thinking because part of the setup at home was the automation. So I put a system in to automate, and very soon I realized that actually, as I was sitting in my study, the observatory would be on the deck, literally 10, 20 meters away, and that got me thinking, well, why 10, 20 meters? Why not 400, 500 kilometers? So this, the little observatory on my deck was what became a prototype for what KKRO is today. And really, I spent quite a lot of time trying to find a site. So for probably about a year, I was driving around dark sites around in the Western Cape, trying to identify a good site. And I came across Kagga, had a chat to the guys there, and they were very, very keen to build something. And then literally, I think about a week after I got back from that meeting, I got a message from Sean. He was looking for somewhere to put his huge telescope collection, and his idea was to actually put this stuff at another observatory venture, which I'm involved in on the other side of the Cederberg. It's the Cederberg Observatory, which is largely devoted to outreach. So we do star parties, we do little outreach events for every weekend for people who are staying in the area. So Sean popped round, and introduced himself to me and said, "Look, can I move some of my gear to the Cederberg Observatory?" And I said, "Well, hang on, we're going to build an observatory at Kamma." So that kind of got us, put us, together and got us working on this project. So it was super exciting. Really perfect timing in terms of us meeting and putting our heads together to make this project work.
That's great. How many telescopes do you have, Sean?
There's 4 in the observatory, and there's about another 4 here. And yeah, so I've got an obsession, I think, with telescopes. But being retired, my source of funds are drying up. So, so I think these kind of things, toys will have to come to a stop now.
Yeah, well, just to give you an idea. So Sean sends me a picture of a guide cam the other day, saying, "Oh, look what I found in my cupboard." So he's not even aware of half the equipment he has. He keeps finding bits and pieces that he's forgotten about for several years.
I'm in
I've
a
been
similar
building.
boat.
No, sorry, no, so I've been building up to get into an observatory at some point in future. And I've got, like Peter, I have a passion for STEM education and for making sure that people can just to encourage young people to look at science as a real option, as a job, rather than just for me, it's always just been a fun project, So, so I've been collecting over many years, and that's why some of the stuff I don't even know what I over many years just been buying things with a sole objective that one day I'm going to be doing outreach with all the telescopes. I've got 2 more. I forgot about it. I've got 2 more, another 10-inch and a 14-inch also to add to that list. And it's really, I think Pete and I spoke, we said where we're going with this, and we said this is a nice option for us to get people involved with STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I still believe it's a strong opportunity for us to build onto that. I digress a bit, but I was just trying to explain that I'm not just fixated and completely obsessed. There's a little bit of method in the madness.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, that's great. As I'm also big into STEM. I work in STEM. I do a ton of outreach, and I've also lost count of how many telescopes I have. So now I'm looking at like where can I send my stuff. So I'm a little bit behind you, Sean, but I think I might try and catch up.
You can go for it.
It's going to take me a while to catch up, but I'm working on it.
Speaking of the telescopes at KKRO, how many telescopes can you currently accommodate?
So we've been talking about that. I mean, originally we had 15 stands, piers in the observatory. And then, we came up with an idea of putting sea stars on the back wall. So, and also potentially we can put, 60 millimeter scopes on the back wall as well. So that sort of brings it up to about 20. And then I think we could, with a bit of rearrangement of the existing scopes on the floor, we could probably fit another 2, maybe 3. So I think 28 probably will be the max, but we're talking about building number 2 now, so
Yeah,
that hopefully will be coming up in the new year.
that's awesome. How many?
I also think,
So go ahead.
so as I was just saying that, like Peter said, you started out with 15. We're now up to about 20 with the C star rack, and we're actually looking at expanding that C star rack because we've got the space for it. What you don't realize is the entire roof that you see is probably another more than a meter longer than the actual observatory building. So we have some real estate still to expand for the sea stars. And then we're thinking, maybe in the second observatory, we reserve this particular one for the smaller rigs, maybe. I don't know yet. Still things we need to think and talk about. But the next building will be bigger. Maybe we can also say 4 2-meter telescopes in there, and the rest maybe some of the, the 500 mils and bigger or so. So I think there's a lot of permutations for us to play with. The way we designed it and the floor design, we're not painted into a corner by being restricted to where we can put a pier. So we can literally move those piers anywhere within that observatory. And I don't know if you've seen any imaging of the floor of this observatory. I think you could probably drop a nuclear bomb on it and it will still survive.
That's good to
Now
know.
we were talking about the over engineering. We thought, well, we've over engineered this thing, and then about a month ago we had a ginormous storm that hit the Western Cape, probably the biggest storm in living memory. And we're pretty glad we over engineered, to be honest. So it did withstand the very strong winds and the heavy rain. So we're quite happy about the over engineering. So we have to, it's sometimes worth spending a little bit more money on getting it right, in case of very bad weather conditions like we got a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing.
Yeah,
exactly. Not doing it over.
All right, so you're talking about expanding. So you have one. What does it take to maintain a remote observatory, and how do you see that affecting 2 observatories?
Yeah, it's a good question. Sean, do you want to have a first stab at
Yeah.
that?
So, Naz, I think, when we started out, we were going to just rent out piers. And I spoke to Peter and we decided that between us, we've got so much gear. And the schlep of sending all the stuff backward and forward across the water, the red tape involved and so on. Why don't we try to lease these telescopes and, make it available to people? It's easy. It's a good way to get to dip your feet into the water. So that part was then decided upon. I think what I certainly didn't bank on was the amount of sort of effort or additional work that it takes to keep that telescope going, because it's not somebody else's telescope. They can put in a ticket, they can pay, or maybe it's just one of those freebies that we throw in and just do the work. We've actually got to go out there and actually do the hard work, do the slog, make sure everything is sorted out because we own the gear. So from that point of view, I think it's been a little bit more than I anticipated. There's also every time we go to the observatory to go and do some routine work, the work doubles, quadruples. It just explodes, and we think we're going to spend one night there, and suddenly you've got to ask, can you please stay another night or additional night? So there are always little things that are backing up, and people want things done. Even though we have, as you know, a on-site team that is absolutely phenomenal. Those guys, they understand what the real turnaround times are. When I asked him to do something yesterday afternoon, half an hour later, he was in the observatory. We didn't fiddle with some USB cables and so forth. But for the most part, the observatory itself is actually so robust, as Peter said. It's literally over-engineered. So we've never had a roof issue. We've never had any sort of thing that's wanting to fall off the rails or anything like that. The maintenance is really around the internet, connectivity, electricity is robust at Kamma. They have a solar farm, and they do not get energy from our national grid. And they provide everything themselves, and it's really good. So they've got a big solar farm, they've got backup generators. And when I say backup, I mean like serious backup generators. Inside the observatory, we've got another 5 kilowatt hour, 5 kilowatt hour backup battery in there. So that's also additional backup. And the fact that we have internet in this remote location,
Yeah.
you can put it on Google Maps and go and try and find it, and you'll just see, incredible mountains all around it. And it's really difficult and to get there and remote. So all in all, given the conditions, I think that the maintenance is actually at minimal. We really can't complain about it. Conditions are really harsh here. We get extreme summers and extreme winters. And yeah, everything seems to be holding up. And thankfully, I think, as Peter said it earlier, the engineering is paying off.
Yeah, no, the power situation is great. I mean, there's so many levels of redundancy there, so you really would need to have a catastrophic failure at multiple levels for us to lose power. Look, the internet could be faster. We're conscious of that, and that's essentially because we don't have Starlink. We rely on a microwave internet connection, but it's at least stable. It's reliable. Download speeds aren't as fast as we would like them to be, but it does provide a stable connection. And hopefully, eventually, there will be Starlink. So this is something that, with a bit of luck, within the next year or two, we'll have Starlink on stream.
Yeah, from my experience, like the internet is slow, but like we were talking about automation, most of it's automated. So like once I get in there, turn stuff on, I don't really have to worry about the internet at all anymore. So yeah, it's been great. Yeah, like you haven't noticed any power issues either. I'm grateful for all the over engineering because didn't have to worry about the storm on our end. So it's been great. I think you answered like my infrastructure question too. Like I'm sure people are wondering like something at a remote location like this, what does the power and internet look like? And looks good.
Yeah, yeah. And as Sean said, the on-site team are great. Look, they're not astrophotographers. They are learning as they go along. Or they're learning on the job.
Yeah.
And eventually, we're hoping to identify a couple of them and really train them up so they can build a rig themselves and they learn all about astrophotography and hopefully get into the hobby themselves.
Hmm.
But for all the basic stuff, USB cables, power cables, that kind of thing, they do a fantastic job. The turnaround time is fast.
Yeah.
And then the more technical stuff, Sean and I do when we go up. Roughly probably every 4 to 6 weeks, one of us goes up to sort out the more technical issues on site.
Yeah. That's great.
And we've got one more pair to fill. So basically, on the in about 6 weeks' time, we're going to have a couple of the guys from the Astro Imaging channel, Molly and Daniel. They're going to be sending a scope to us. In fact, Daniel is going to be flying out
Wow.
with the scope himself, so to install it. So that's going to be very exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, so like related to that, you're speaking about leasing out your own gear and other people bringing theirs. Do you have a preference on what you want? Do you prefer people sending their gear, or do you prefer leasing out what you have?
I think, leasing out is easier because you kind of know the equipment that you're setting up. You're not having to deal with the whole issues that you have at customs, and that's been quite a challenge on occasion. It's not been uniform. Every single client that we've had has had a different experience. Uh, in some cases, things have, arrived and been delivered smoothly. In other cases, we've had to wait because the equipment's been audited, and that's delayed things. So it varies from client to client, what the experience has been. So certainly leasing is an easier option. And we're encouraging people to come out, so in Daniel's case, for example, he worked out it'd be cheaper for him to fly out with the equipment than to put it all into a box and send it down.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about too. Me, Dave, and Chris from our end are like, we have gear, we can send it down, and we looked at the cost. I was like, wait, it's going to be cheaper if we just rent it from you. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy how that works.
I think a lot of people are sort of circumspect about renting gear. You know, it feels a bit like purchasing an image on the internet, which, and they don't realize that it's actually exactly as if the thing was standing in the backyard, and you're taking control of it. We don't get involved, as you know. You're renting, and you've used one of the other ones that you've been helping me fault find and fiddle around with, and we don't. You know, we give you the telescope, you have the passwords, and you take control of it. If you do well, great. If you mess up, well, sorry about that. But you know, that experience, that's what astrophotography does. You know, it teaches you some terrible lessons, and sometimes you make mistakes. But that's really it's so real. It's like really operating from your backyard. So whether you're sending your telescope you from the US or from wherever else in the world, because you're emotionally attached to it, or you're using one of the telescopes that we lease out, it's actually no different to us. Honestly, it's absolutely no different to us. But what it is, it's a lot easier for the person sending it. There's a lot of less pain, and you know, customs can suddenly come up with a requirement to send them a lot more dollars or euros because of some other rule that some official has decided to go dig into. And yeah, so my recommendation would be, if you can avoid it, then send put it in your backpack and come over yourself or this one.
Yeah, have a nice holiday in South Africa. There's lots to see, so it's a fun place to come and visit.
The one question that a lot of people ask me when I tell them, you know, I'm controlling a telescope in South Africa is like, how much time do you get on it? So I'm just going to add to what Sean says, that, you know, like when we rent these telescopes, they're exclusively the person who's renting it. They're not shared. So I think people are used to things like Telescope Live and iTelescopes, where you're renting out time or a night, as opposed to this where we have like complete control.
So I think now your setup is completely automated. So you basically have it running 24/7,
Right.
you know, without any interference at all on your side. You just let it run. You check in from
Once a
time to
week.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since the roof status got installed, I barely hop on anymore.
It's a little bit in some respects, isn't it? Eh? You know, it makes you lazy, because I found when I started running the telescope at KKRO, I was not checking in for 2-3 days at a time, because, and I just relied on, at that time we didn't have the roof server yet, and I just relied on the fact that, you know, if things go bad, then the roof closes and I have 3 hours of black. And that's fine. I do that, you know? But
Yeah,
it's fantastic now that the roof is working, and the roof status file is working. And yeah, so far so good. We've had a couple of closures over the last few nights, and everybody's who's automated didn't miss a beat.
Sticking with equipment, you know, you have things for lease. Do you have a list of rigs that people can look at to see what's available for lease?
Yeah, there are 3 that are featured on the website at the moment. We have additional ones which we need to put on the site. At the moment, we've got the scope that you're using, and then we have an FRA 300 and a 94 EDPH running as well. They've been booked out pretty much for the whole year. It's been incredible, you know. In fact, the FRA 300, I had that originally on a night-to-night booking system, because I didn't think people would be wanting to book that for long periods of time. It'd be like 1 night or 2 nights or 3 nights, that kind of thing. And very quickly, we were getting bookings of a month, 3 months, and now I think it's pretty much booked out until the end of December this year. So, yeah,
That's awesome.
And then currently, as we have the 2 Esprits as well, the one that you were test driving with us, and then the one that Zar uses. So that's another rig, and Peter's putting up a RASA, which is running some test on. So that RASA is going to come up for rental. And then we have another FRA on a EQAZ EQ6AZ, I think it's called, the Skywatcher. So that one we're still busy working on some filtering for that one. So that one will become available for rental as well. And I've always said that if it's within reason, we'll buy what somebody really wants. So in your case now, we've purchased some additional mono gear because you wanted the 571 in mono. So we've purchased that gear so that you can have that mono rig, and because the 585 was not sort of fitting in your what you needed at the time. So yeah. So yeah, within reason, if it's there and it must obviously make business sense to us. You know the numbers, you've seen the numbers. That thing, it will have to work flat out for 3 to 4 years before it gets paid back at this point in time. Whether that's sustainable into the future, we don't know. We'll just have to see. But yeah, certainly willing to make the investment to make sure we have parts.
The other option, which Azar, one of our clients, took was he's renting out the one of our Esprits, but he sent the camera and the filter wheel, so the back end he basically sent down. So there is the possibility of having like a part rental and then part you ship the equipment that you want on the back end.
I'm just gonna step back a little bit to talk about people sending gear. So with the C-Star revolution, like people, it's become so easy, and you have a couple of C-Stars already. Should anyone looking to send a C-Star, is there anything specific they should know before they send their C-Star? And side question: do you have C-Stars for lease?
Not yet. No, I think we're thinking about it. I think certainly for building 2, it's something we would look into. For building 1, we can probably only squeeze another 2 or 3 C-Stars on that back wall, or maybe another. I don't know, if we extend that back wall a bit and have another layer of C-Stars, maybe another 5 or 6. But yeah, there's been a lot of interest in sending C-Stars. What I would definitely recommend people do is, if you do send a C-Star, send it with a very solid wedge. What we found with at least one unit was that the wedge was slipping a bit, and of course you're going to lose photo alignment very quickly that way. So it is definitely worth sending a good high quality wedge with the C-Star. And then I think I'd also recommend the sand. What's been very popular is sending Mac Minis with the C-Stars. I'm more inclined now, since Nina works well with C-Stars. And I think one of our clients, was it Nick? I think it was Nicky. He was even dithering with the C-Stars. So I think I would be inclined to recommend people send mini PCs rather than Mac Minis.
I think Nikki has certainly opened my eyes with, when you're talking about Nikki, that's Astro Doc, by the way. And Nikki has certainly opened up my eyes, to see what he's achieving with the C-Star. And I honestly thought it was a toy and something I'll get myself one day. So I can stick it in my car easily. I'll go camping and just to have a few snaps, that kind of thing. But Nikki's producing fantastic work with that thing, and like Peter says, I think the fact that he's using Nina is probably the big plus, because Nina's just so powerful and can do all sorts of things. I mean, delivering is something we take for granted, but people with C-Stars are not, in general, doing those kind of things. But I think that's all part of what Nikki's
he's really been pushing. He's been pushing the envelope of what one can do with a C-Star. It's really been fantastic to see some of the images he's been producing. I think one of them has been featured on the ZWO site, so he got quite a bit of coverage from one of his images with that. So yeah, it's fantastic.
I also think that a lot of people are using this, what they call that little finger, the robotic finger, to
The switch bot.
the switch box, yes. So, in the beginning, I thought that things may be a bit of overkill and so on, but there's been a few occasions now that I know, and people are just at first we heard about it every time they said they cycle it. Now they don't even talk about it anymore. It's become so passe that they're just doing it now. So I think that's another little feature that's certainly useful. Something else I think to consider. Again, Nick is using one of those. It can be a bit fiddly, and that's a magnetic C to power the C star with. So if there's tangle ups, which happened on his one, and it just pulled out the power, and it was fine. So we just sent somebody into the observatory, connected up again, and the problem was resolved. So I think there are lots of little things we can look at, and again, it's about this best practice. We can start to give people ideas on what to do. And obviously, some people use it, some will not use it. But I think if we make that available, it makes their lives and their experience better. And it's a lot less pain for us having them on the phone or on the Discord asking to assist every 5 minutes. So not that we mind, it's part of the job, but certainly holds up the experience.
So it's been fascinating watching the whole smart telescope revolution, because I don't think the manufacturers of these scopes ever intended them to sit in remote observatories. I think WO never thought their sea stars were going to go and at the Starfront or KKRO or other places. And I suspect that the next few generations of the sea stars will have that kind of functionality built in, to make them more automated, to make them easier to use and set up at remote observatories.
One other thing I want to add with the sea stars, though, I think that the price difference is minuscule, whether you buy it from America. Well, the US is a bit of a different because of tariffs and stuff. So let's exclude that one. Let's say you bought it in Canada or you bought it in South Africa, it costs the same. So our proposal is that if they're going to buy it from a local supplier in South Africa, the difference in price is not really large. And it makes it easier for us to go and collect, or them to send it directly to us. We have a relationship with these people. It's easier for us to deal with. There's none of these customs and all those type of things.
Yeah.
If they still want to rather, buy it themselves, if directly from, say, ZWO or Dwarf or whatever it may be, I think the best would be is that we've had so far is ship it directly to KKRO. Do not first ship it to your home country and then try to ship it back.
Yep.
You first you're losing the advantage of the free shipping because it normally exceeds that threshold, and you're paying tariffs depending where you are, and you're adding another lot of value-added taxes to when it comes into South Africa again.
Well,
yeah.
Can people reach out to you to get help sourcing a sea star?
Oh, definitely. We have a deal actually with Telescope Service in Germany, and they will give us or give clients a 10% discount on any equipment that they send down to KKR. So if you want to, particularly if you're based in Europe, if you want to send stuff down to South Africa, then it would be a good opportunity to chat to them about the 10% discount. That more or less offsets the shipping costs. So basically, 10% on a typical rig is what you'd pay for shipping that down to South Africa.
And we've been passing that off, the entire discount, straight onto the buyers. We haven't, held back any sort of fees or what they call this thing now, loyalty sort of funds. Everything that the discounts that we get, we pass straight onto the customer.
Yeah, I mean, what I do want to experiment with a bit more is not just having one closure event. At the moment, because it's winter, I'm a bit sort of wary of the weather, and when cloud comes over, the roof closes, but then it doesn't reopen. We can set things up so it reopens, But you don't want a situation where it's constantly opening and closing the whole night through, multiple opening and closure events. So it'd be quite interesting to chat to other people who are running remote observatories, how they handle that side of things, whether they simply let the roof open and close repeatedly throughout the night, or whether they have some I suppose minimum period that it's closed for before it checks the weather again and then reopens, that kind of setup. Because I mean, the other night it closed early, but then I noticed looking at the weather, things improved again at about 3 o'clock in the morning. So that would have given people another 4 hours of clear skies, which they didn't get. So it's something that we do want to look into.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
But I think one of the, like Peter said, we need to remote observatories. It's not new, but this level of commercialization, if we want to call it that, that it's so democratized, is actually quite new. I think Starfront was certainly the people on the forefront of this. And sometime in the near future, I think Peter and I will probably have to do some video calls on, and probably even get on an aeroplane and visit some other remote observatories, and we'd welcome some of those people to come and visit us as well, call us, because I think there's a lot of, it's for the mutual benefit of the community. We can share best practice, develop best practice, and SOPs of standard operating procedures. My entire career, or most of my career, is built around on Toyota, and Toyota preaches standard operating procedures. So I've become a real fan of standard operating procedures, but I believe that with these best practices, we can certainly assist each other within the broader community.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, it's one of the reasons I like the Astro community. I think we're as a globe, we're pretty collaborative, and we like learning from each other, teaching each other. So that'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to see partnerships like that.
Yeah, I'd love to see some really big collaborative projects happening at KKRO in the coming months. I think I saw something the other day at Starfront. It was like over 1,000 hours of integration time on a target.
Hmm.
I think that would be fantastic to try and do it at KKR.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, count me in.
And I know Vineet is quite keen on that, and he's willing to drive it. So I think as soon as I'm going through a bit of a rough patch now, but once I'm back in Cape Town, things will be settled down. And I think that's certainly one of the projects for us to drive. I also like the idea of cataloging. I just saw the other day that which observatories that had quite a few things on their catalog.
So yeah, we briefly touched on weather there. I think a question a lot of people have is how many clear nights can you expect here? Here in Boston, I think last year I got 40 clear nights out of the 365 days. At KKRO, our first 60 days, I think we had 45 clear nights already. So that was kind of like insane. We were overwhelmed with data. So I know you haven't been up for a full year yet, but do you have any kind of statistics?
My guesstimate, it would be about 260, 270 maybe clear nights a year. I think over the summer months we were getting 90% clear nights. And then, in fact, the only complaint I was getting from people during that period was, we've got just too much data. It's like too many clear nights. And during the winter months, I would say probably 50% of nights are clear on average. At least that's been the experience so far over the winter period. So, on average, I would say over the year, 270 is something we would expect, which is, I think, competitive. I think on average,
Incredible, yeah.
remote observatories would be aiming for 260, 270 clear nights a year.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And I think if we look at telescope uptime, how many hours, once we get the roof sorted, that because of the altitude there, we may have passing weather and the roof closes and we don't open it again. And there's probably another 2, 3, 4 hours available to image. So I think we've got a little bit of work to do on that. And then if more of our customers can automate to get the benefit, because it really helps us if they get more hours, because we want people to say, it's amazing that I'm getting so many hours at KKRO. So I certainly encourage people to automate as much as possible.
Yeah, and I should say during the winter months, although you're probably getting about 50% clear nights, the nights you do get, you're getting 12, 13 hours of imaging time. So
Mhm.
long nights.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And the altitude and the cold there also helps a lot with the stability. So that area, it doesn't snow in that area often, but around it, it snows quite a bit. And that certainly helps with this to, stabilizing the air. And the seeing and transparency is fantastic in winter. It's actually known, a lot of hikers go and hike there for landscape photography, particularly during the winter months, because over the long distances you get such stability with telephoto lenses and whatever. It's just a fantastic area. It's a beautiful area to be in.
I know that there's a lot of interest at KKRO. Is there a wait list? How can people get on a list to be notified when they're next?
Yeah, we've already been starting to take reservations for building 2. So essentially building 1 is full unless we are able to squeeze another 2 or 3 piers on the floor, which we'll look at when we go up on the 27th of this month. So we'll have a look at that floor plan a bit more closely. But yeah, we're starting to build a waiting list. So if you're interested, contact us. There's a $200 reservation fee. So that will guarantee you a pier in building number 2. And then we'll just keep in touch with you and keep you, updated about how things are proceeding with getting things ready for shipping equipment down.
Do you have
So
a
yeah,
date for?
there's certainly interest, and hopefully by the first quarter of next year, we'll have building 2 up and running.
Great, awesome. Do you have a list of costs for piers? Yeah, a lot of other places, have different size piers for different size telescopes at different costs. What does that look like at KKRO?
Yeah, we do on the website, we've got our tiers. We've only got the 3 tiers. So the starting price is $145, and then that goes up to for 1.5 meter swing diameter, goes up to, what is it, Sean? 200 and
We start now at $90 for the C-Star. And then the balance then we have 800 millimeter, a 1 meter, and then a 1.5 meter.
1.2, so it's
pier.
1.2 and 1.5.
1.2 and 1.5, yeah. So it's 90 for the C-Star, 145 for the 84 centimeter, 195 for the 120, and 295 for the 1.5 meter.
And then I think building 2 will probably have another tier above that, because we'll have the space.
Right. Cool. All right. Is it going to be, so do you have like specs on how big building 2 will be? Is it bigger than the current one?
Oh, most definitely. It'll be at least 40 square meter floor space as opposed to 24, which is what we have at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah.
We're aiming for 40 telescopes now.
Wow. Yeah. That'll look great. I'm looking forward to the build pictures and some time lapses from that.
Yeah, we as excited, believe me.
Yeah, I'll say that $90 for a C-Star rental is kind of amazing. Like I've been researching other remote observatories, a lot in the northern hemisphere because of KKRO, I have a taste for Bortle 1 skies from remote imaging. I was like, I need something in the northern hemisphere too. And like most places, is around $100 for $100 for C-Stars, and once you go up a level, it's like $200. So I think KKRO is probably the best priced piers that I've seen so far. So I'm glad we got in when we did, and then we locked in for the next year with the SQA 85. So looking forward to getting a lot more data.
And then our discounts now, they are incredible. So for somebody willing to commit for a year, any from 3 months up to 3 years, if they commit to that, either the discount in monetary terms or in time. So if you pay for 12, you get 15 months. You pay for 3 years, you get 4 years. It's quite an incredible deal, if I say so myself. Yeah, so if I had to buy it or rent a pew there, I'll certainly, want to get something at KKRO. I think at this point in time, it's sustainable for us. We can do it. We're not making huge profit. We're certainly not banking a lot of money, and our investments there will probably take quite a while to pay off. But hopefully over time, the hobby, the interest in grows in South Africa. Observatories like KKRO initiates and some further interest in astronomy or in science, technology. And Peter and I were saying that an observatory really gives you every element of science to think about. There's engineering in the building of the building. There's computer science in terms of the automation of everything in the observatory. There's optics. There's just, I can't think of any element in the STEM suite that's not covered within an observatory. So yeah, hopefully if our landowner gets to a point where they are willing to, or wanting to rather, shall I say, maybe scholarships, or we have students through. Peter has got lots of students at the other observatory in Cedarburg, which is not an astrophotography observatory. It's more outreach observatory. But I think we can reach a lot more people that way. And in South Africa and Africa, we need that kind of interest and people building on those skill sets,
Yeah, in fact, one of the things I've been talking to a few schools about in Cape Town is doing projects. So basically getting the kids involved in doing exoplanet transit type science, or variable star type science, for basic photometry type work. And so there's a lot of basic astronomy science that can be done by high schoolers. And I'm certainly very keen to get my telescope out to some kids who are interested in doing that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Yeah, education is extremely important, especially in a time like today. Yeah, so I'm going to ask just a personal question for both of you. What's your favorite object to image in the night sky?
Yeah, that's a very tough one. I would say wide field, definitely Fuji for sure is probably my favorite target. Mainly because it's so high up in the skies in South Africa. You really get, you can get tons of hours on that target. And then it's very, very difficult. I don't know, Sean, what would your favorite target be at the moment?
No, what really got me interested in astronomy, as it were, was, I think it was in the 1970s, the Horsehead Nebula was on the cover. And I was gobsmacked by that. I tried to image that thing so many times with film, by the way. It was a complete failure. And so it's still something I like to go back to every year and take more and more images with it. And I've got data going back from DSLR through CCDs to CMOS now. So I've got so much data on that particular target. But what I really enjoy are these smallies, So you'll see every time somebody posts a picture and there's some minuscule galaxy or planetary nebula, those things excite me. Maybe it's an excuse for my aperture fever. I don't know. But I enjoy planetary nebula, and 8-burst nebula, I think, was the first one that I really saw on a CCD camera, and it just blew me away. And that was only with an 8-inch HHD, and it was so amazing to me. So I think I'm a more planetary nebula kind of person, although I don't get much time to do it. But I'm pushing to get that 14-inch done, and you don't know this yet, but as soon as the other observatory opens, there's a 16-inch RC that will come out. And so, those planetary nebula are rolling.
Oh, that's gonna be amazing. Yeah, this was thank you for taking the time for this interview. I think this was great. I think anyone watching this, they'll have a lot of their questions answered before they even have them. So hopefully, I wish KKRO like all the success, especially because, and I'm hoping to be there for years to come. Is there any final thoughts you want to share with anyone watching?
Yeah, look, any questions, contact us. What I've tried to do with as many clients as possible, just to save the emails flying to and fro, which is not the most efficient way of communicating. It's just to hop on to a video call, and then people can ask questions, and we can have a chat, and I get to know, the new client, and they can basically fire away with any questions they might have about the observatory and getting set up.
Yeah, so to add to that also is the fact that KKRO is within a wilderness, a declared wilderness area in the Western Cape. And so far we've had 3 of our clients visit already, if I remember correctly, Peter, am I counting incorrectly?
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
And there's fantastic facilities there. It's quite remote, so don't think it's sort of 5-star butlers running after you or anything like that. But it certainly is
an accommodation option where you basically sleep outside. They've got a 4-poster bed, basically set under a little overhang, little rock overhang, and you can basically sleep out under the stars. And they come and they cook for you, and bring a bottle of wine, and there's luxury camping, but under the stars. Really, really amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I hope to visit one day. All right. Thank you so much, Sean and Peter, for being here. I'll stop recording now.